Okay, we'll start with this. A fight that has been officially rescheduled for the undercard of Arnold Barboza versus Kenny Sims next month. Gabby Fundora versus Viviana Ruiz, who I could have swore were set to face each other on the undercard of Ryan Garcia's last fight.
I guess they moved it.
Services as an encouraging omen for Golden Boy Promotions and their future on the DAZN platform because they're currently out of contract. They haven't ironed out a new deal yet, but the platform is set to carry this fight where Gabby will be defending her undisputed crown, sporting an unblemished record of 17 wins with no losses and no draws, 9 knockouts. Fighting out of the southpaw stance, leading with the right in order to set up the left, 23 years old to her opponent, who's 20 years older at 43. Viviana Ruiz sports a professional record of 10 wins with 2 losses and no draws, 5 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 12 professional bouts, considerably older and smaller and less experienced than Gabby Fundora, believe it or not. Even though Gabby's a lot younger, she's the one who's faced the better fighters overall, better fighters all around.
She literally has more fights than Viviana Ruiz.
Viviana, who was last in action in April of last year opposite the ring Maria Rivera, who she won a split decision against in the only fight that she had all of last year. So she hasn't been that active. The night of the fight it will have been roughly 11 months, just 1 month short of a year since Viviana's last fight. Already been beaten by former champion Louisa Lulu Houghton.
That was in September of 2024. Viviana has since rebounded off that loss, and she's currently on a 2-fight winning streak. Feeling is, if you can lose to Lulu Houghton, you can definitely lose to Gabby Fundora, who was last in action in September of last year, knocking out Alexis Kubicki in 7 rounds. One of the more talented fighters at this weight. She beat her into submission, and I suspect she will do the same to Viviana.
Gabby Fundora has stopped 5 out of her last 6 opponents, and these are good fighters.
Really good.
Which I think gets underreported because the boxing scribes are just not as familiar with the flyweights as they are with the girls at some other weights. But she beat 2 unbeaten fighters, and Cristina Cruz and Marilyn Badillo.
2 unbeaten fighters, one of which was a standout amateur, 2 reigning champions in Arely Musinho and Gabriela Alanis, both of which she stopped.
And of course, her most recent outing against Canada's Alexis Kubicki, who's a very talented fighter, but Gabriela made short work of her. I suspect she's going to do the same against Viviana. There's just too much working against Viviana here.
She's gonna lose. It's just a question of how.
Does she survive, manage to go the distance with Gabby but lose a points decision? Or does Gabby go home early and stop her like she's stopping all these other girls? I do tend to lean towards the latter. Gabby's not just a statuesque fighter, not just a tall drink of boxing, but she's actually a very good boxer, not just a power puncher. She uses the lead hand well to manage the distance at which the fight is being fought,
not holding her feet and using the jab to set up her power punches outside of the pocket or inside of the pocket. She is dangerous.
She can make herself a very difficult fighter to get to because of her statuesque frame, but when she wants to, she can be front foot heavy and bang in the booth.
She's versatile. Too many ways of fighting a fight that I don't think Viviana is going to unseat her. I don't know that anybody at flyweight stands a chance against Gabby. So, as usual, I have Gabby winning the fight. It's just a question of how.
And super lightweight news per veteran boxing scribe Dan Rafael, the IBF have ordered 140-pound champion Richardson Hitchins to make a mandatory defense of his title against Lindolfo Delgado. They have 30 days to negotiate or a purse bid will be scheduled. It means Hitchins versus Duarte won't be rescheduled after Hitchins withdrew hours before the fight Saturday after vomiting several times after breakfast.
Reactions are pouring into this news, and a good number of individuals think it's unfair that the IBF, through this order, is blocking the Duarte fight. Among them is CompuBox's Dan Canobio, who said, "These sanctioning bodies need to do a better job of reading a situation. Duarte is absolutely getting hosed here."
To which Dan Rafael responded, "The IBF granted Hitchins an exception to the mandatory to fight Duarte. It specified very clearly in the resolution that whether the fight happened or was cancelled for any reason, the next fight would be the mandatory. Agreeing to that stipulation was part of the agreement to gain the exception. If the IBF then ignores that, then the IBF has broken its resolution and Delgado sues. It is not the IBF's fault that the fight was cancelled. I'd say their hands are tied on this one, as unpopular as the facts are.
Duarte's definitely getting screwed, and in some ways so is Delgado, but not by the IBF, by Richardson Hitchins. For anybody who was holding out hope that the Hitchins versus Duarte fight would be rescheduled, I don't think it was going to be. I think Richardson Hitchins was well on his way to leaving the 140-pound division, so Oscar Duarte wasn't going to get that fight anyway, and neither would Lindolfo Delgado, the IBF's mandatory challenger.
You might have seen him on one or some top-ranked shows, as he is affiliated with the promotional outfit that is between broadcasters right now, at the same time that Richardson Hitchins is between promoters right now. This IBF order in no way guarantees that the fight happens between them. I'll go as far as saying I don't think it's going to happen. I think Richardson Hitchins is going to move up and drop the IBF title, which I'd call a good thing.
Why?
Because he's a pure boxer, and you guys know how I feel about pure boxers and that base style, and because I don't think he was trying to unify with anybody. I don't think he was going to unify with Gary Antoine Russell, Dalton Smith.
He wasn't going to get a Shakur Stevenson fight, not that he was looking for one.
It's not personal. It's just business. I'm focused on what's best for the division, what makes boxing more entertaining, more exciting, and the 140-pound division, to me, is better off without Richardson Hitchins. Now maybe Lindolfo Delgado, who's in line to fight for the title, and Oscar Duarte can work something out where they fight for the IBF title, because I don't expect Richardson Hitchins to comply with this order.
A fight between those two would actually be better, more entertaining than a fight between either of them against Hitchins.
Mexican Civil War, a Mexican standoff, as both Oscar Duarte and Lindolfo Delgado are Mexican nationals. One is promoted by Top Rank, the other by Golden Boy, both of which are between broadcasters right now, but rumor has it that Top Rank could be returning to ESPN and Golden Boy could be returning to DAZN. We'll see.
I believe that it will take some weeks for the dust to settle and for Hitchins to finally announce he's not going to fight either of these guys, he's going to move up. And thus, reconciliation may not come to the red belt at 140 right away. It may take a minute.
In men's heavyweight news, that previous report published by Ring Magazine, owned by Turki El Sheikh, claiming that tickets for Dubois versus Wardley are struggling to sell, for those who missed it.
Now that they're on the outs with Frank Warren,
the mudslinging has begun. Rumors are circulating in the boxing world that Queensberry is in financial trouble without a continued business relationship with Sella and TKO. The loss of those relationships has influenced Queensberry's threat to sue Sella and TKO.
Now, when they claim that Queensberry is in financial trouble, I was scratching my head, because how could that be the case when they just inked a long-term deal with DAZN? Why would they be in financial trouble?
They're not.
That is deliberate misinformation.
Ring Magazine continued, rumors indicate that their announcement to the media of legal action was timed before their Wardley versus Dubois press conference, which took place today for an event which is struggling to sell tickets.
Which struck me as odd, because I would have thought that Wardley versus Dubois in the United Kingdom was a white-hot fight that isn't difficult to sell, and it turns out that was more misinformation and more mudslinging, because tickets for the fight haven't even gone on sale yet. So how could they be struggling to sell?
They don't go on sale for another 2 days.
So this is the byproduct of a major periodical in the sport being owned by an entity that also promotes fights, because that's what Turkey is at this point. He's a promoter unto himself. Being a promoter, he's got competitors. He's fast gone from boxing's own United Nations,
bringing everyone together,
to Thanos in the Avengers.
The point being is that Turki El Sheikh and his business moves seem to make him the antagonist in this story.
Which I'm not against, by the way. It makes the story interesting.
But the whole bit about Queensberry Promotions being in financial trouble without TKO's backing and their event struggling to sell, it was all mudslinging. It was all bullshit. So what I'm expecting now that it's established that Turki El Sheikh through Zuffa Boxing means to poach everybody's fighters is tighter contracts.
It's what exclusivity deals are all about, ensuring that your top talent doesn't float away someplace else.
It's more or less what we already saw upon the inception of the PBC, and word spreading that Al Heyman was overpaying his fighters with all of that Waddle and Reed money. What you saw after that were exclusivity deals, a high abundance of them.
Saw it again when DAZN entered into the American boxing space, overpaying fighters to draw talent to their platform.
Exclusivity deals that came with high contract minimums to ensure the fighters would be on board, they'd sign on the dotted line, and they couldn't float anywhere else.
To somebody else's platform to be content for somebody else.
So where a Matchroom, for example, might go into a deal with a fighter for 2 or 3 fights and then the contract is up, their contracts might start looking more like Golden Boy contracts, where the deal runs for 7 fights and several years.
With several stipulations.
I wouldn't be surprised, because the established game in town have a new challenger, a new player with a lot of money. They don't have the experience or the know-how of an Eddie Hearn or a Frank Warren, but what they do have is a lot of money to kick out to a lot of fighters to get them to jump ship. And the only way you can stop that from happening is ironclad contracts. Just in keeping with the theme of all things Queensberry, why Fabio Wardley handpicked Daniel Dubois for May bout.
Held the kickoff press conference for the fight earlier today.
The 31-year-old, the ring's #1 ranked heavyweight, beat Joseph Parker for the WBO interim heavyweight title in October and was upgraded to full champion the following month when Alexander Usyk relinquished his belt. But after notching the best win of his career last time out, Wardley was in no mood to secure an easy defense of the title in his first outing of 2026. Instead, he picked the most dangerous opponent he could find.
Is that accurate? Is that what Daniel is?
It's debatable whether or not Daniel is the most dangerous opponent for Fabio Wardley, but he's definitely dangerous, and what he also is, an opponent you can sell, and that's why I think they chose him.
It's not a layup.
Fury had emerged as a potential candidate earlier this year, but the 2-time world heavyweight champion opted to face Arslanbek Makhmudov in April instead, leaving Wardley with a decision to make. I gave Fury an open invitation, really, Wardley says. I said, look, if you want it, I'll have it. But then he said he wants a warm-up fight first, so that's fine. It didn't really even reach a serious conversation. Then there was a list of fighters offered to me. There was Daniel Dubois, Filip Hrgovic, Jared Anderson, I think, and then the Albanian, Nelson
Haisa.
For Flavio Wardley, it was impossible to look past the name at the top of that list, his compatriot and former IBF heavyweight champion. I picked him because he's the most dangerous one on the list, Wardley adds. I look at it and I think, where am I going to get the most credit? What's the best fight? I look at it from a fan's perspective.
I believe him. I mean, out of that list of names, the best one on there was Daniel.
Wardley versus Dubois, you just put that on a piece of paper and you think, how's that gonna look? Are people gonna be excited about that? People will tune in to just watch that. You don't even need an undercard. That's the type of fight I want, and the type of fight I want to be associated with. Wardley and Dubois, who first crossed paths in sparring nearly a decade ago, were reunited Wednesday afternoon in London's Square Mile, the capital's financial district, as they officially kicked off the promotion for their high-stakes clash. They will meet on May 9th, 160 miles north at Manchester's Co-op Live Arena, where Wardley's WBO title will be on the line. But for the Ipswich man, a victory will represent far more than a defense. As he told The Ring in December, Wardley was informed of his elevation to full champion while sitting in a Heathrow departure lounge, which meant he never got what he describes as that crowning moment. Beating Dubois, however, will provide him with a second one. I guess it was almost anticlimactic in a sense, said Wardley, of becoming heavyweight champion of the world. I've spent years watching people win world titles, and it's in the ring, with the cheer of the crowd. You raise the belt, you hear, and the new, and all of this. But I just got it on the end of a phone call. That's not to take away from it at all, because it's one hell of an achievement, and I'm still extremely proud of it, but it is still a weird way to receive a world title. But winning this fight will provide me with that moment. I want to to be able to win it in the ring. I want to be able to hear it. And I want what I feel like was denied the first time around. Like Wardley, the 28-year-old Dubois was also elevated to full champion from his position as interim belt holder when Usyk vacated the IBF title in June of 2024. However, the Londoner followed that move by knocking out Anthony Joshua at Wembley Stadium 3 months later. Dubois, ranked number 4 by the ring, lost that belt when he was knocked out by Usyk on the same pitch in July, but has been offered the chance to bounce back and win a different world title in his very next outing. I'm full of confidence for this one, Dubois said. I'm raring to go, and I'm going to take his O. I'm going to be the first man to beat him. I can't wait to go, and it will be victory by any means necessary.
Daniel is back with Don Charles, which I believe makes him a very dangerous man ahead of this Fabio Wardley fight, even coming off a loss to Alexander Usyk. You'll excuse me for saying that Fabio is no Alexander Usyk. Daniel is a near and apparent threat to his reign as champion.
Saying skills pay the bills, and that's what we're gonna do. This show is called Don't Blink for a reason.
Don't blink is right. I believe that Fabio is capable of knocking out Daniel, but I believe that Daniel is just as capable of doing the same to him. In what is a white-hot fight, in my opinion, I knew not to trust that Ring Magazine report stating that this fight was struggling to sell. Based on everything I've seen from the Brits, this is an easy fight to market. And that's a big part of the reason they landed on Daniel.
More marketable than Filip Prgovic, who Daniel already beat, by the way. More marketable than the American Jared Anderson, who's been underwhelming so far, and certainly more marketable than some random Albanian. Daniel.
What the fuck is that?
Even coming off a loss makes for a fantastic night of boxing, and it's good that Queensberry was able to put this all together without any involvement from Riyadh Season, Sella, Turkey LL Sheikh, in essence, asserting their dominance, that they don't need Turkey and his money to put together marketable fights.
Sellable fights. They were doing that long before Turkey LL Sheikh came into the boxing space, and now that they're competing with each other.
My only hang-up with the fight is that they're billing it as a pay-per-view to all existing DAZN subscribers, where I think it should only really be a pay-per-view to the Brits. The name of Daniel Dubois and Fabio Wardley to the Americans doesn't count for much, doesn't count for enough that they want to pay extra to have to see it. They shouldn't have to. This should come as part of our subscription, which will entice more boxing fans to subscribe to DAZN. But if what you're going to do is put every solid fight behind a paywall, you're actually making your own job that much harder, and that's my only complaint.
Yeah, I think that's a mistake.
But in the United Kingdom, this is a hot ticket. When the tickets actually do go on sale, I don't think they're going to struggle to get them out. And across the pond, I do think they can sell a few pay-per-views with this.